live. I'm going to quickly grab the link and blast it out to the community.
Perfect.
Fantastic. All right, Dan, we're off to the races. I just blasted out a message to everybody in our community. We got an email blast that just went out too. I know it's Friday. The real ones are inside building and learning new things, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much, Dan, for staying up tonight. I know we've been in talks for a while, thinking about how we can serve all these builders who have great ideas for Web3 apps. And I think there's this whole like misconception that like Web3 and crypto and blockchain and ICOs and coins, like all these things are the same, but really they're absolutely not. There's many subsects of blockchain, and I think what open format is doing is definitely one of those subsects. And so I think in this session today, we should definitely uncover some of that stuff because, you know, at Ambitious Labs, we talk to probably anywhere between 30 and 50 builders every week who come through our enrollment process. We hear a lot of fantastic ideas ranging from, you know, marketplaces to SaaS to crypto, blockchain, and many of the ideas we can support, but many of the ideas are technically challenging, like crypto. And traditionally, like I remember I had to like stay up all night at a hackathon one time to build a app on top of Ethereum, and I had to learn a brand new programming language, Solidity, and how to really just figure out how to navigate that world of blockchain just to add just a very basic crypto layer on my app. So when I embarked on this journey of, you know, teaching people how to build apps without coding, one of the things that I was really intrigued or really just like curious to see how people would solve is like building crypto apps and building Web3 apps without coding. So open format's doing exactly that. I know it's a long-winded introduction, but I'm super excited to introduce to our community how you can finally build apps with Web3 game mechanics without coding. So please introduce yourself, Dan. And I'd love if you could start by telling us like what's the difference between Web3 game mechanics and like crypto and blockchain and everything else.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the intro. And yeah, we've been talking a while. I think it's like since I made like a Web3 workout tracker all the way back in like November, December last year. So it's been quite a while now. But yeah, so I'm Dan, head of growth and community at Open Format. Basically, what we've got is a toolkit for right now. It's kind of focused around Web3 game mechanics and rewards. So stuff like, you know, experience points, achievements, leaderboards, badges, all sorts of that, like all those sorts of things. But kind of the bigger picture that we're aiming for is like around microtransactions and being able to monetize in that way. So yeah, right now it's very much focused on the game mechanics, but eventually we'll be moving into being able to like earn and then spend and kind of like buy these blockchain credits on in the no code environment. So yeah, what we've kind of there's our website, and that's actually the workout tracker I was talking about right there from probably about 6 months ago now, where because I'm a no code developer myself, I'm not actually, I mean, I know a bit of JavaScript and a bit of HTML, but I'm not a developer by any stretch of the imagination. And our developers were building things, and I was like, this is really cool. I just want to get involved. And like you, I tried building something, and it just takes so long. You've got to learn Solidity, and it's like such a long commitment. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if like the no code community I'm part of could experience this and could easily add Web3 enabled things. So very much focused around ownership and actually allowing the users to own what they earn. So that's kind of the general theory, and it's where a lot of people get confused with cryptocurrency, and they think it's all about hype and like the meme coins and all that sort of stuff. And what we're focusing on is actually the utility behind that and what can happen when you give ownership to a user of an app. And that looks like a lot of different things in a lot of different circumstances. So what's been really exciting is over the past few weeks, we've been running a competition with you as a judge, Alim, which is great. And yeah, as part of that competition, we've had lots of different builders building in no code. A lot of them actually people who've never built anything before. And they've been able to go from never having built anything before to being able to build a blockchain based application in like a week or something like that. And they're very interested in different use cases. Some are like fantasy sports sort of applications. So I know you worked on PrizePicks back in the day. So we've had people kind of dabbling with that sort of concept, workout trackers or golf or horse racing, all these different sort of areas. And then also had people kind of looking at the local community and how they can help like incentivize others to help each other in the community and kind of bring, especially since COVID, can sort of bring people closer together. And then there's been people looking at AI, and obviously there's a big thing now with people integrating AI within their applications, and that's great. But I think a lot of people realize when they start doing that there's a lot of costs behind that.
Yeah.
One of the bigger things that a lot of people are interested in is like the ability to sort of have microtransactions around that. So you capture like, people can, the users can almost contribute towards the costs of the AI that they're using. So yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, so this is like the competition we're running. It's up on the close date's the 30th of June. So if anyone's interested in joining, we'll put some yeah, you sent some of the details out. So yeah, it'd be great to see what people build. As I've said, you don't really need any experience. If you've got experience in Buildship and Flutterflow, that's great. You'll be like able to build something very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Today using Buildship, we're gonna build. We're basically gonna take an app and we're gonna integrate experience points. We're gonna integrate a leaderboard. We're gonna integrate achievements. All of them on chain. So yeah, I don't know if you've got any more questions or if you want to jump in.
No, yeah. I mean, let's talk about the competition real quick. So I know we have a few people tuned in. So we are running a competition with open format, Buildship, Flutterflow, Ambitious Labs. We're a sponsor. We're running a competition to see how many of y'all can build fun, cool blockchain enabled apps. So I'm going to quickly share my screen and walk you guys through that competition, because the point of this live stream today is to really expose you guys to this protocol and also get your gears turning. If you have an idea for an app that you're already working on, maybe you have some gamification, maybe you have some of these mechanics already kind of in your in your feature roadmap. Now we can introduce you an API that you can integrate with Buildship to bring some of these mechanics into your app. So some of the mechanics that are very relevant like right away are like rewards, leaderboards, missions, on-chain profiles, microtransactions. I'll let Dan get into those exactly, but let me quickly just talk about the competition. So we're running a competition. Like Dan said, we just extended the deadline another week. So if you're building an app, we want to give you an opportunity to participate in this competition where we have judges including Harini, the CEO of Buildship, Leah, the head of product at Flutterflow, Mihai at Machinations. We have Bruce and Sarah, the co-founder of Open Format, and we're giving out a ton of really awesome prizes for those of y'all who build interesting blockchain-enabled apps. And for the most promising startup award, us at Ambitious Labs are offering up a seat in the Ambitious Labs Accelerator, and you're going to get 6 months of pro Buildship. So if you're already building an app, this is a fantastic opportunity just to throw your ring in the fire and see if you can get one of these prizes. There's a ton of opportunities here. So all you really need to do is take the idea that you might already be working on and after today's session, find a way to integrate one of the APIs that we're going to expose to you today, and then submit your app. It could literally be as little as 10 minutes worth of work, or it could be as much as 10 days worth of work, all the way through the finish line. So I just wanted to preface everybody by saying that we got a really awesome competition. I'll post a link to it in our Discord, and I'll post it in the chat as well. And then wherever this YouTube video gets posted, I'll also put it in the description. So really just want to give you all an opportunity to know about that competition. So yeah, without further ado, Dan, let's jump in and learn how we actually build something with open format.
Yeah, awesome. I'll share my screen. So yeah, basically we're going to start with Buildship, and we decided to use Buildship as our kind of platform to get started with open format. So you could directly use the APIs and the SDKs and everything like that, but we decided to use Buildship because it's got loads of flexibility. You can actually see the code. I mean, Alim, you always talk about how great Buildship is. I mean, I don't think we need to sell it. It's a really good platform.
Oh yeah, we're using Buildship for some incredible things, like not even just like building apps, but like internally at Ambitious Labs, like I have so many workflows that are tying our enrollments department with marketing to operations, coaching to coursework, all the assignments that students submit, like those are being routed through AI models and automations through Discord. And oh my goodness, we have microservices that are literally built on Buildship that I would have normally had to write Node.js and Python for. So Buildship's extremely powerful. We're using it for a lot of really cool things.
Yeah, same here. So yeah, so we've got some templates which allow you to do some quite cool things, and we're going to dive into 2 or 3 of these today. So the ones that we're not going to touch, I'll briefly explain because they are quite cool. So we've got this geolocation reward one, which basically what it does is it will only reward a badge, which is essentially an NFT. It'll only reward that if a user's in a certain location. So say for event tracking, you could actually track the users, like say in the UK, we've got Glastonbury next week. So for each of the different sets, you could reward, a music fan if they actually attend the different sets. So that's quite interesting. I did a video actually the other week on a museum. So people visiting the Natural History Museum in London, and they would only get the badge. It was kind of like a scavenger hunt where they had to find the answer to a question, and they'd only get the badge if they were actually in that exhibit. So there's some really interesting things you can do with that. We've got this, which basically will check whether someone actually has one of these badges, and if they do, it'll give them access to the thing, and if not, it will like block them from having access, which is really good for gating content. You could have that for blogs and all sorts of things, or you could have it. I had it for an AI assistant, so you had to have engaged so much with the platform in order to actually get access to that part of the that functionality. So that's really interesting. Then you've got this concept of missions, so where you can reward multiple actions in different places. So say if a user completes an action in Discord and then an action in an app, you could then reward them with a mission, like a badge saying, like power user or whatever. There's like all sorts of interesting different ways you can use that. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll dive into this one, which is probably the best way to get started with open format. It's this concept of experience points or points. So kind of like rewarding a user for doing a certain task within an app with points, and the difference with Web3 being that the user actually is going to own these points that they're earning. So it's kind of like it is a token in the general sense, but you can't spend it. So what's really interesting in terms of open format is we've been thinking about how we're going to reward users for actually building things within the open format ecosystem, and then we can track who engages the most and reward them, give them free credit so they can use open format, although it is free at the moment, so there's no charge there. So yeah, we'll start with this concept of experience points, and what the app that we're going to be adding it to is an app I kind of prepared earlier. So the general concept is that you're going to integrate it with this one API call into any app. So just as an example one, what I've got here is a quiz app. So it's very simple. You've got like your main menu, you've got your kind of sign in, create account, you've got an onboarding page with you add a name and an image. Nothing special going on here. You've got your quiz page where there's going to be 4 answers. If you get the right answer, you get rewarded. If not, you don't. So very simple application. And as I say, you could do this in any sort of application. It could be, a sports-based application where you're trying to, reward users for doing certain activities. It could be, a lot of a fantasy sort of sports thing. It could be more of a sort of game like this quiz app. It could be, I did a demo the other day, which was a volunteer app. So it was like rewarding people for volunteering. And some people have even experimented with kind of rewarding AI, like an AI workforce. And there's some really interesting different kind of.
So like, I'm just going to be the devil's advocate. Like, why wouldn't I just build this logic myself in Firebase, a reward system that just keeps track of rewards?
Yeah, well, if you're doing that, then you as the app owner could just like change the kind of points that anyone has at any one time. So
Oh yeah.
You as the owner are actually in charge of that, and the user doesn't in any way own that. And there's also this element of portability where, because the user has a wallet and they are actually, they have their own portable account, they can then take what they've earned, moved, and also say, you set up an app. I could then set up an app and be like, I'm going to give a 10% discount to everyone who's earned, Alim's Quizmaster badge, and or if it's a sport thing, you might have created a workout app, and then I can then reward everyone who's like the best athlete and they've got like the top athlete badge with like a 25% discount at my, trainer store. Like, sort of interesting kind of cross collaboration opportunities as well. And there's just a lot of different business models that get opened up by having this sense of the user owning what, the user owning what they earn. So, I do an action, I earn some points, then I actually own the points I've earned. And obviously later on, we're not quite there yet with our toolkit, but later on there'll be more of a monetization angle around this. So say I do something, I earn credits, and then I spend credits, and those credits are actually worth, like, they're the currency within the, like, this is like a digital economy we're almost creating where,
Right.
I can spend those credits within this app or potentially other apps as well. So yeah, that's kind of like the big overarching difference between it just being in a database where you can't build on top of it because you don't own it. It's like, even say the very fact you own a car means that you can create loads of business models around it. Like, if no one owned cars, like Uber couldn't have been created, or Deliveroo, or all these different, gig economy. So like, by a user owning a certain thing, business models organically can be created on top of that. So yeah,
Dan, like, my other question to you is then, how do you integrate with this? Is this a REST API that you have wired up in Buildship, and then Buildship has nodes. Each one of those nodes are open format logic blocks, and you assemble those logic blocks using Buildship. And so is that right? Kind of how I explained it?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got some different nodes here. We've got, if I just click on here, we can see the list of nodes. We go to open format. We're right next to OpenAI.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've got 6 different nodes. So reward XP, which we'll be using today, which just rewards the user with points. Reward badge, which rewards them with like an on-chain badge. So that's like the equivalent to an NFT, essentially. We've got get leaderboard, which will return for your app or DApp in this case, like a decentralized application. It'll return all of the users who is top of the kind of like who has the most points. But you can do this. So if I just add this for now, you can change whether it's like all time, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. So you can like very easily have different date and time periods for a leaderboard. And then we've got a few more, so we can like get the user's information. So it'll return the actions they've completed, the badges they own, the XP that they have, like all this different information about a user. And then also check their missions, so see how far through different missions they are and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be like the users 60% through this mission. So yeah, and all of this is like we've got APIs and basically we've wrapped Buildship around it to make it simpler. And say, for example, this reward XP node is 2 different API calls plus some JavaScript code which signs the transaction. So there's more than just like one API call going on underneath.
Right. No, I'm sure there's a ton of business logic under, because I remember like in the crypto days and like my blockchain days, you had to like post a transaction to the ledger, let the transaction settle, read the new transaction, get the hash of the next transaction. Like there's so much like technicality that goes on under, because it's such a low level interface. Like truly when you're working with the blockchain, you're actually interfacing with like an actual data store, and there's no APIs on top of the blockchain. There's no like high level abstraction that developers can use. Like now there are, I mean, there's plenty of like APIs now that have come up on the blockchain, like Third Web. But I think what we have here is a little bit more like use case specific around gamification. I mean, let's talk about the challenge I just launched, right? Like the idea to $1,000 MRR challenge I just launched on YouTube. I'm building an app from idea all the way to $1,000 live step by step. And so the idea that I'm building is a AI sales coach where aspiring sales reps or existing sales reps or salespeople or saleswomen can go on this app and practice how to become a better sales rep every day. Think like Duolingo, but for learning sales. For example, one of the challenges that come up on the app is like, sell me this pen. And your job is to talk into the app and sell it the pen. So sales is a very competitive environment anyways. And so what I'm thinking is like, okay, maybe as the app evolves after I launched the MVP, how could I get people to compete with each other? What if like you and your friend wanted to compete and see who's a better sales rep, or you wanted to compete with everybody on the app and create a community of reps on the app and see who's actually completing more challenges, who's better at completing the challenges and earning the points. I think that like open format could be interesting play here, where we can use the rewards, the leaderboards, and then like even sell it as, hey, like this is a truly fair, democratized game. Alim is not controlling this. The app is not controlling this. Everything is on the blockchain, meaning it's immutable. It's all going to be there. Nobody's able to control it, and this is going to be fair, democratic, and yeah, there's really just no possibility of me being able to change the outcomes. And so I think that's an interesting value proposition. And it also just makes it super easy to integrate that functionality, right? Like how fast is it to get the functionality going, Dan? And like, if I were to implement this into my app, like what would that look like for me?
Yeah. So in terms of speed to get it going, I mean, very quickly, like we're going to try and do most of that today. It's almost the harder thing is thinking about how you balance the rewards and how you kind of what actions you reward and how much you reward for. So it's more of like the design behind the gamification, which is something people like Duolingo have done a very good job at thinking about behaviorally, how to get the balance between, rewarding enough and rewarding in the right situation without like, just doing that constant sort of dopamine hit. And so, there's like a lot of like behavioral, like psychology behind it. But yeah, in terms of integrating, very easy. And it's interesting, actually, some of the benefits of doing it this way would be that some of the people in the sales community that you create could then go and, create their additional challenges, or they could create a Discord channel where they've got like, they can see the leaderboards, or they could, and there's like the opportunity for like a community to grow around it and people to build on top of what you've created, but it's all going to drive back to you. So you could like theoretically, and we're not quite there yet, but like eventually like you could get, a royalty on the different like things that people build. So as people build something and then earn it, you're also benefiting. So you're incentivized to help this whole sort of community grow and to help other people build on top of it. So
Very
there's
cool.
really interesting things around that. But yeah, hopefully after today's build session, you'll be able to just go along and integrate the XP rewards and have a leaderboard and have achievements and all the different gamification elements that you want.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. Right on. Absolutely.
Yeah. So should we continue building then?
Yeah, let's do it for sure.
Yeah. So basically, we just need to get a bit of setup.
I guess real quick, Dan, sorry to cut you off, but if anybody in the audience, I know we've been trickling people in and out. If anybody has questions about open format, if you have an idea for an app that you're building, if you're wondering how you could incorporate this type of technology into your platform or your product, leave a comment. Use the chat feature in whatever platform you're watching on LinkedIn or on YouTube. We're happy to address your comments as well. At the end of the day, we're doing this for you. So yeah, go ahead, Dan. Sorry about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we just need to get set up. So we need to get from Supabase a few different keys and URLs. So the reason we're using Supabase here, you could use Firebase, you could use any database you want, but we're just using it basically to store so we've got our profiles. So this is going to have like their name and their like photo, so just like sort of standard profile stuff. And then we're also going to create a table called Web3 account. So this isn't the ideal way to sort of manage keys. And so with a Web3 wallet, you've got a public and a private key. So they're like the public key is kind of like an email address. So actually, I'll just create one so you can kind of see what it looks like. So a public key is kind of like an email address, and a private key is like the password, or you could think of it as like the public key is like your credit card sort of account number, and then the private key is like the PIN code. So for this tutorial, just to make it super easy, we're going to add both of these to the database. And that's kind of what we say when people are first getting started, just so they can get a bit like get a rough understanding. But in like actual production, you wouldn't want to manage wallets this way. You'd want and we're going to do tutorials on how to actually do it. It's not that much more difficult. There's just a few extra steps that you've got to go through. So yeah, what we're going to do here is we're going to create a table in Supabase just to, store these keys for now, just so that we've got some way to, actually know what user is associated to what account, just so we can actually reward them. So we'll just grab our keys from Supabase. So this is just a database I've set up earlier. Literally all we've got here is profiles, and we've got, a foreign key, the user ID, a name, and a photo URL. So it's very, very basic. So we'll add another one, and we're going to just call this Web3 accounts. If I can spell, there we go. Sorry for the noise. I've got a mechanical keyboard. It drives everyone in the office insane, but very satisfying to work with.
Of course it is.
Yeah, and then we're going to turn off row level security. Again, you wouldn't do this in production, but just for the demo. So we're going to add a few different columns here. So we're going to add one called account address. We're going to add one called private key. And actually at this stage, you don't even need the private key in terms of like, we don't use it. But if you wanted to give the user access to their account, to import it to say MetaMask or another wallet, you'd need the private key. So that's kind of why we're storing it. So then also we're going to add the user ID. So this is just like when, you create an account, it's the ID that's associated with the user. It's just a unique ID. In this case, we're going to actually relate it to the auth table in the database. So we'll go to auth and then users and then ID. So this is when a user, with the authentication within Supabase, when a user creates an account, this will create like their account for them. And this is just the ID that's going to be created. So we're just using that to identify the user that it's associated with. And then these are both just text types. So, and then that's literally in terms of the Web3 integration, that's kind of all you need to do. So you could already have an app with like, a really extensive Supabase table, and you're just going to add this one table, and then you're pretty much sorted. You just need to grab the API keys. So I'll delete this at the end of the session, so no one try and nab the keys.
But I do that same exact thing. Like when I'm teaching, I'll just like spin up a key and then just delete it. That's funny.
Yeah, I literally do it all the time. It's really annoying for some things though, because I end up having about like 50 keys. I'm just constantly cycling through them.
Oh, I'm with you.
Yeah, and we'll just call this demo, because I've spun up so many reward _ user ones when I'm demonstrating it. So we'll give it a unique name. So yeah, this is gonna check to see if they've already got an account, and if they don't, it'll create one for them. So
Okay.
that basically means that you could already have an app that's like, working, and you can integrate this, and it's a separate table. It's a separate sort of layer within your app. So it's quite detached and separate. So as we showed before, this is just going to create an account address and a private key. And then we're going to add that to the database. And this is all pre-set up in the template. So you don't need to do any of, this sort of setup here. It's all set up for you when you add your template. And we're just going to add these, this API key again.
And you don't have to use Supabase, right? You can use any database. Like, just want to make that super, super clear.
Yeah, you can use any database. This is just literally the template we've got set up because we tend to use Supabase, and it just seemed like a good one to.
Can I ask you, why do you tend to use Supabase?
Because it's open source and it's SQL based, and I just quite like it. I did Firebase for a while, and then the flexibility with querying just kind of got to me after a while. I didn't have quite the flexibility I needed, so I moved to Supabase, and I've just found that there's no real restrictions, and I like the fact it's open source. So
okay, but you have a technical background, right? So like it might be a little bit, I won't say easier, but I'll say you have the mindset for Supabase. I don't think everybody should go to Supabase. That's why I'm kind of calling you out there. But if you are technical and you like a challenge and you're willing to learn SQL, I think Supabase is a good choice. But if you're starting out, I wouldn't get shiny object syndrome with Supabase. Would you agree, Dan, or disagree?
yeah, I mean, I started out with Airtable actually, like right in the beginning. I went Airtable and Firebase and Supabase, and that was quite a nice progression for me. And I just kind of moved as I needed to, and as and I find you do this with no code. I started with, I think, maybe softer, and then I got to a point where there was just too many limitations, so I moved to Flutter Flow. So yeah, I think just kind of start simple and move as you need to, and it's good, that process of like iteration and learning. But yeah, don't necessarily go straight to Supabase. I agree.
No worries.
So right, now we're going to go to open format, and we're basically going to get these 3 values, and that's pretty much the only thing we need to do. It's quite simple. So we're going to grab the private key, is what we said before. So this is the private key to your account. So yeah, you'd want to keep this secret. So in Buildship, you can add secrets. I've got a whole load of them here because I use Buildship quite a lot, and that's like the better way to manage all of these things. So we'll just go to the open format launchpad. You can sign up with an email, GitHub, or with a wallet if you want to. So we wanted to make it super easy so people didn't have to actually, have a wallet to get started. So say I use GitHub, but you can literally just use like a magic link and put your email in, and it'll send you a link to get access. So I'm going to use GitHub. Yeah, successfully connected. Right, so I'm into the launchpad now. So I want to create a dApp. So this is basically when you create this dApp in the dashboard, it's going to do like a whole load of things under the hood. But it'll basically just spit out, and so you can give it a name. We'll call it quiz app, and you select a blockchain. For now, we're just using Arbitrum Sepolia, which you don't really need to worry about that if you're not like technically into it. But essentially, it's just a testnet of a layer 2 blockchain. And the reason we're doing testnet is because right now we kind of want a sandbox, so anyone can just experiment without like worrying about real money being at stake. So testnets are basically like there's no underlying money. It's kind of like it's all free. It's kind of like, yeah, there's no concern there. So, and we also fund you with like Arbitrum Sepolia credits, so you don't need to worry about gas, which like I know a lot of people when they get started, it's a real barrier to them. They're like, they've got to pay for these gas fees, and they're like, what's a gas fee? So essentially you don't need to worry about any of that when you're building. You just create the dApp, and it'll give you your dApp ID. It'll just take a second. Yeah, so it's doing a whole load of stuff under the hood here. Like you wouldn't,
That's
yeah, you wouldn't
cool.
believe the amount of stuff that's going on. But yeah, you literally just then can copy this, and add the DAP ID here. And then we want an API key as well, which I have not saved my API key because I keep doing these demos and I keep changing it. So when you create a new one, it'll replace the old one. So this is my current one. Again, I'll change this at the end of the session so no one can go and steal my stuff. So there, added the API key, and I'll just grab this private key as well. I'm just going to click export and then copy that. And that's basically all of the setup in Buildship that we need to do. We can give this a name, we can feed it in dynamically. For now.
So real quick, how do I identify who a user is in open format? Is that that's the database that you set up in Superbase? So like, how would I know?
Yeah, so that's what the user ID was for. So if we go, and currently there's going to be no one in here, but we're basically going to link it to this user ID. So when there's a user in the app, and it doesn't have to be like, you know, using Superbase's authentication or anything like that. It can literally just be any unique identifier of a user.
And then if I want to pull the data, say you reward this XP, I'm sure you're getting there. Sorry if I'm jumping the gun, but say you reward the XP. How do I get?
So we've got a
XP?
node for that. So it's well, there's two nodes. So there's either the get leaderboard node, which we'll get to. We're going to do that, and then there's also the get user information. So then for a specific user, you can just like put their account address in, which is.
So I don't have to keep track of a leaderboard at all. Like I never have to create a leaderboard database in my app and keep incrementing the numbers and stuff. I just trust the data that open format has, and I pull it
and like
from open
if you
format.
don't trust the data, you know, you can go and look on the blockchain. It's all transparent. That's kind of the beauty of it. It's like.
And what blockchain
so
do you
currently
guys
it's
use?
Arbitrum Sepolia, just whilst we're in testnet, where, you know, in this kind of sandbox phase where we're just trying to get people to understand what they can build. And then as we go on, we aim to be like blockchain agnostic. So basically anything you want to use. Like we've had a lot of people asking for Solana and a few different things. Eventually we want to just come.
Solana is all the hype right now. All these meme coins, people are jumping on them.
Yeah, eventually we want to kind of cover all of the different blockchains. But for now, since it's very much around, you know, getting people to build, we've just chose one, and that's Arbitrum Sepolia.
Yeah, I mean, my advice to people out there is like, don't even like, don't get caught up in the keywords. Like, focus on the value for your users. Your users don't care what blockchain you're on. Your users don't care what platform you're using, and you know what color your shirt is that day. They just want their problem solved. So oftentimes I hear entrepreneurs get too caught up, but sorry for that. There's a little bit of mindset alignment.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we can feed these in dynamically. Since we're only going to be rewarding one different action today, we'll just do it in Buildship. And we'll put like reward 50 XP, and we'll call it like correct. Sorry, my spelling's awful today. Correct answer. So this is basically going to be the name that's recorded on the blockchain. So you can also bring like see a list of the actions a user's completed. So that's really interesting as well, because you can kind of see over the past week the actions a user has done, and all this sort of interesting like data. So there's like this real like open data economy as well. There's a question there. Is it possible to implement the Lightning Network? So yeah, right now, no, but it's like when we say we're going to try and be blockchain agnostic, that'll be part of that. So right now, just kind of build with the blockchain that we're working on, but eventually we'll move to that, and you won't have to change any of the functionality at all. Like the functionality will be the same for each blockchain. So yeah, so now we're set up and we can test this here. So theoretically, let's just say that the user ID is 123. So obviously that's not a unique identifier or anything, but just to test it out. So it's gonna build it. It takes a little while. And then what it's going to do is it's going to check to see if there's a row there. There won't be, because, you know, we've got no rows currently in there. Wow, this is taking a while. Okay, there we go. So it's going to create a new row, and then I've done something wrong here. What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? Classic. It never goes. Never goes to.
Yeah,
Oh
it is
yeah, because
classic for
I've put
sure.
it down as a UUID and it's not a UUID, is it? So I'll grab this
Oh, I
one.
see. If anyone knows why that's a classic, it's because it's just a running joke in the world of software. Whenever you're trying to demo
Yeah,
something, something
I
breaks.
did one demo the other day and everything went to plan, and I was so convinced that it was going to break. I was like, what's gone on? Like, it shouldn't have all worked.
For sure.
Yeah, so you
No,
get
I'm with
used
you,
to when you're
man.
doing live demos, trying to quickly figure out what what the problem is. But that's part of the beauty of it. So yeah, this time it's worked. It's created a row in the database, and now it's rewarding the XP. And you can choose. So this await function here, basically, it's what you mentioned earlier on. It's whether you wait for it to be posted for the transaction to actually be confirmed. So if you put false, it'll work and it'll continue in the background. But if in between it's being confirmed, you like run another reward XP, it'll overwrite it. It's basically this whole thing. So if you are going to be rewarding lots of XP, put await true. If you're going to be rewarding like XP once every hour, then you can put it as false and it doesn't matter. But yeah, I tend to just stick with true. And yeah, so if we look in the Web3 accounts table, that's auth public. So if we look here, we've now got an account that's been created, and we can we could check. So the UI of these places are awful, but if we look on the blockchain explorer, just to prove that it's actually happened and we haven't just said it's happened. So you can see here, the quiz app XP, 50 of it's being rewarded to the account address that we said about. So this is all happened on the blockchain. It's actually, it has happened, and we can access that, which we'll do in a second. So we'll just ship this and we'll add it to Flutterflow, just so it's actually going to have some value within the app. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this, and it's literally just an API call. So we can just go to the API call section, add API call, paste this in. It was post, and then we'll give it the reward XP name. So the body we're feeding in, we're just feeding in one piece of information, and that's the user ID. So we'll create a variable for that, user ID. It's a string, and then we'll just add this to the body. And other than that, we don't need to, pass any information in. That's all we're doing. If you wanted to reward different amounts of XP, you could pass that in. Or if you wanted to call the actions different names, you could do that. But for now, we're just going to pass in reward the user ID. So we can give that a try. If we grab, well, that's the wrong. So if we go and we grab this user ID again, we can reward them again and just check that it's working. So we'll test. And this sort of iterative testing continuously is a pretty good practice when you're building apps, because things will go wrong, and being able to pick it up as soon as possible is always a good thing. You don't want to, so it's successful. You don't want to go like really deep into your app and then have an error and not know where it came from. So I've probably gone too deep, to be honest, without testing. Normally I test all the time. I'm continuously doing it. So yeah, we've got this reward XP API call now. So I'll just quickly explain through some of the logic of this app that I've set up. So the user creates an account, and there's nothing special going on here. They just create their account with Supabase. It then navigates them to an onboarding page. At the onboarding page, they can add a photo and a name. When they click continue, it creates a profiles account for them. I literally spun this up in like half an hour earlier.
Wow.
It's not too deep, to be fair, but it's just the power of no code, right? You can literally just bring in all these different things super quickly. So then this is basically using it's an API called Trivia API. So shout out to those guys. But yeah, we're going whenever we do this, it'll give us a question and some incorrect answers and a correct answer. So what I've done is I've just got a custom function that basically will where is it? It's one of those dudes. But basically, it'll bring in the 4 answers. It'll shuffle them up and return and put them in a random order. So you don't know which is the right answer. So when we click an answer, what's going to happen here is it's going to check whether the correct answer is the one that you've clicked. And if it is the correct answer, it'll navigate to a win page. If it's the wrong answer, it'll navigate to a lose page. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an action here for the win. And if they get it correct, we're going to reward them with some XP. And because we're using the user ID, we literally just go authenticated user ID, and we could have some conditional to make sure it's successful. But for now, we'll just assume that it is. So literally, all we're doing here, we're going to reward them with XP every time they get a question right. And it's kind of as simple as that. So if they get the correct answer,
that's pretty dope.
Yeah, they're going to get on-chain XP. So like, it's literally as simple as that. So I'll boot up a test run and we can check that out. But in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll create a leaderboard and we'll get that functionality working, which again, super quick, especially now we've set up Superbase. So what this does here, so we'll add in our API key. So I'll just grab that from over here. If you manage it as secrets, it's way better because you don't have to do all of this copying and pasting. But yeah, we'll just add this in and add our DAP ID in. I'll go back and grab my DAP ID. And then duration, we can just set that as weekly. So this is like going to be a weekly leaderboard with 10 results. So you could choose to have like 100 results if you wanted a really big leaderboard. We're just going to go with 10. I mean, we're only going to have 1 user for now anyway. And then if we test this, it should just return back our 1 result. Yeah, so we've got this user, and that's the account address that we created for that user, has got 100 XP because they've been rewarded twice with 50 XP. So what this template does here is it's basically going to then check their Superbase database, and it's going to spit out at the bottom an array of, like, you know, position 1 is Dan. Here's Dan's photo, and he's got 100 XP, and then we can make our leaderboard that way. So yeah, essentially what this does is from the result of this, it just loops through the users and the amount of XP they've been rewarded, and checks their Web3 account table in the database, get their user ID, and then for their user ID, we basically got a custom little thing here that'll basically mash together the profiles and the result from the API to, you know, create. And you could do it a load of different ways, but we've just done this so it's super easy for people, and it'll basically spit out a really tidy array that you can use within your leaderboard. So I'll just put the key and the URL in, and you'll kind of see what it looks like. It's almost easier to show because it just kind of works with this template, which is pretty cool. So I put our API keys in, grab the API URL, and then if we just test this, hopefully, so we don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need that. So yeah, if we just test this, hopefully it'll work. So yeah, it's doing the first one. Yeah, so we've got our array, and we've only got 1 person in the array, and in position 1, it's Luke, which is just the...
Damn, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you can imagine, obviously, as you get more and more users, this is all just going to be like aggregated for you, and you're going to have, like, you know, 100 users all with their different positions. And that means basically we can just ship this. Oh, we need to give it a unique name. We'll call it demo. We'll just ship this, and we'll add this to Flutterflow, and we can basically just pull it in have a list view and just have our leaderboard, and it's super easy to do, and we don't have to create any leaderboard or like mess around with any tables in Superbase or Firebase, managing this sort of system.
Yeah, that's really, 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 really cool.
Yeah, so we'll just add this here, get leaderboard. We don't need any query parameters, and we'll just test it. And then we can store our paths. So we'll add this as name. I'll add this as position. I'll add this as photo. We'll add this as XP. And then what this will basically mean is, so I've already created this just because I didn't want to mess around with doing live UI, but it basically means that we can, on this list view, and all this is literally a list view with a container, a row. It's like very basic, there's nothing special going on here.
Yeah.
We can we can do the API call, not that, API call, get leaderboard, confirm, and then we'll create dynamic children's. We'll call it leaderboard. You can tell it's getting late because my spelling's just gone.
I was actually about to say that I think you could do this with your eyes closed, because like you're just snapping to everywhere you got to be without any hesitation.
So yeah, we'll save that. We're going to get all of these generated based on the amount of people in the array. So then we'll just create this from the item, and we'll want to give it, oh no, we can't do predefined path. So this is just dot position, because that's the position that they're in. This is going to be, where we go, the path, and we're going to go leaderboard item, JSON path, dot photo URL, confirm that. Then name, we're going to go JSON path, dot name. So like very simple stuff here. And then here, so we've got a combination because we're going to want to say that, like, otherwise it'd just return a number. So we'll go leaderboard item, JSON path, and I think this was .xp underscore rewarded, if I remember correctly. Hopefully I do. And then that should be it. It should just have our leaderboard dynamically created for us. So we can have a check, see if this works. But hopefully, literally just like that, we've got our Web3 based XP, and then a leaderboard that's created from that. So let's instant reload. And like, if you think about the actual time we've obviously spent a bit of time chatting, but in the actual time we spent building here, it's like, 25 minutes probably.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely wild. Like if you were to have designed that entire database and keep track of everybody's XP, like it's absolutely doable, but A, you have to manage it yourself. B, there's definitely the risk involved. And then C, like you don't really get to sell that value proposition of it being decentralized and on chain. So I mean, like I think the risk, or excuse me, I think the reward and the time to value is very high. Like if you're telling me I can build a leaderboard that quickly and be able to manage the XP that quickly, like I'm pretty convinced. What I've been thinking about the whole time, while you've been building is like, okay, now how do you introduce like a monetization element into this, right? Like I have a couple ideas, but Dan, like, do you have anything off the top of your head for like how somebody can make money with this? Because at the end of the day, like that's what we're championing at Ambitious Labs. It's like, okay, like we can build apps, but how do we make money and take these to markets as proper app startups?
Yeah, and this is like the big phase of what we're going to be doing over the next few months. So right now, this is very much focused on like incentivization and rewarding and engagement, as opposed to the monetization element. But the next thing we're going to bring in is like credits. So basically this concept of you can earn something and then you can spend it. So you could use that to, like, in the classic sort of gaming world of like microtransactions, then they're not necessarily hugely popular, but it is something that, the younger generation is very familiar with. But the kind of way we are seeing it is like, around what I mentioned earlier for stuff like AI, where you can very much buy credits. It's something that people are very familiar with nowadays with like ChatGPT and stuff like that. Buying credits and then spending them to do a certain thing, or being able to earn a certain amount of credits and then, you know, spend what you've earned and then be able to like continue, you know, by buying more and spending them. And there's lots of different ways, but it's something that we're going to be really bringing in over the next few months, is that, and I'll be creating a lot of use cases specifically focused on that monetization. But right now it's very much like engagement focused. So I'll come back with a much better demo of that question, hopefully in a couple of months.
Yeah, and I'm going to be thinking about it too. And we got our private chat, and then for those of you who aren't aware, like Dan has an exclusive line of communication to Dreams and Apps builders. I mean, Dan's everywhere. You can probably reach him directly too. I am very thankful for the relationship that we have, where we actually have inside of Dreams and Apps a private Discord chat that's directly linking us and Buildship. So we have dedicated Buildship engineers inside of Dreams and Apps helping our students one-on-one. That's an insane perk that I don't think anyone can put a price on. And then we do the same thing with Dan. So very thankful for that, and thankful for Dan being inside Dreams and Apps. However, like I know Dan's very generous with this time, and he's on a mission to just spread awareness for this. So I'll leave Dan's contact below, and you can definitely reach out to him. But where I was going with that is, we know where to find you, Dan. I promise we're gonna learn more about it.
And I'm like, very open. If you want to jump on a call, if you've got questions for me, just like message me, Discord, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever it is, just send me a message, and I'm here to help. And if you've got like, you need help with the competition or you want to get involved with that, just message me. Again, very happy to brainstorm or help debug stuff or whatever it is. I'm pretty open to help. So I've just created a new user account here. So what we'll do is, and the user's called, what do I call him? Dan, me, obviously. So what we're going to do is we're going to test this. So what is the word for a female fox? Oh, no, that's a challenge. Is it a vixen? Yes, I got that right. Genuinely did not know if that was right. So hopefully what's going to happen in the background here is they're going to be rewarded 50 XP. So if we look at the, when I created the account, hopefully a new, why are we in auth again? So when we created this account, a Web3 account's being created for them. They've got their profile. So now if we go to the leaderboard, hopefully they'll be there with 50 XP. Yeah, so we've got Luke, who was the original person we created, and then Dan's just automatically being populated there. And
very cool. And then those images, do those images come from open format, or where did those come?
No,
you uploaded those?
Yeah, I just uploaded that into. So this is kind of where the profiles.
I see. Dan, that's really cool, man. The fact that you built that in like 30, 40 minutes, that's really, really cool.
Yeah. So
you're setting the bar really high for me for my idea to $1,000 challenge. I got to move quick. That means I'm starting the Flutter Flow phase on Monday, and I'm gonna be going live, starting to actually build the app on Monday. So I hope I can keep that level of speed that you're bringing to the table right now.
Yeah, hopefully. And obviously we could add way more features. We're gonna like probably call it there, but you could add like achievements, you could add badges, and like achievements can work as like, just ways to flex off what you've done, but they can also be like keys to different parts of the app. And this is where monetization could already come in, because like the other day, I created, I think if I can find it, it was this Stripe loyalty system where literally in an hour, I built this thing where if you buy a product, you get rewarded with points. And then when you get to a certain level of points, you get emailed like a 10% discount once a week on the product.
Oh, nice.
So there's already kind of like elements of monetization, just they're not directly. Like in the workout app I built ages ago, I'll stop sharing my screen. In the workout app I built ages ago, you had the option to buy access to the AI assistant for say £10, or you could earn your way to access it. So there's kind of like the pay to win or earn to win routes where you can like get content, but also earn your way there. It just might take 100 hours of effort or whatever. Like there's loads of interesting ways you could do it. Or say with Substack, they like have ways you can kind of like get blogs. You could have it where you have a blog where you've got a Discord community and a blog, and your like highest engaging members in Discord get rewarded, and that gives them access to a month free in the blog. There's like all of these different kind of already monetization elements where you've got like pay to win and earn to win. So yeah, it's really interesting.
That's absolutely awesome. Dan, thank you so much for doing this. We're coming up on an hour. Thank you. I know it's really, really late where you are. I hope everybody got a chance to learn something here. Again, I will leave a link in the description to sign up for the competition, a link to get a hold of Dan, a link to join our Discord community. And yeah, without further ado, thank you so much, Dan. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alim. Yeah, it's been great.